Food, healthcare, education, and more for a child in poverty. And there are thousands of kids who've been waiting over a year and their wait. Sponsor a child with compassion today. Text the word radio to 83393.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Venus Williams, at age 45, became the second oldest woman to win a tour-level singles match. The Compton native defeated Peyton Stearns in straight sets Tuesday, 6-3 and 6-4 in the first round of the D.C. Open in Washington, D.C. It was the first singles win for Venus since the Cincinnati Open in August of 2023. Tuesday's match was also the first time Venus had been on the court since the Miami Open on March 19, 2024. Martina Navratilova holds the record as the oldest woman to win a tour-level singles match. Navratilova was 47 when she won a match at Wimbledon in 2004. Venus showed she still has some game. One of her serves was clocked at 112 miles per hour. Venus, a 7-time Grand Slam champion, was given a wildcard exemption to play in the D.C. Open. She advances to the second round on Thursday against the number 5 seed in the tournament, Magdalena Frech of Poland. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
All I need is one mic.
With the KBLA Talk 1580 guest editorial, I'm Martin Gordon, chair of the Pasadena Community Coalition. Recently, I listened to a Tavis Smiley show conversation with James Farr. At one point, James said something that caught me off guard. Not because it wasn't true, but because it is. Black Altadena is gone. I know it may seem stupid and non-productive, but I stopped in that moment listening to Tavis and James. I broke down and cried. In the back of my mind, I told myself we can bring it back like it was. But James Farr's reality check hit me like a ton of bricks. My community is being murdered. I said murdered. Not by the Altadena Eaton Canyon fire, but by the people we elect to protect us, and by greedy and gatekeeping nonprofits who cannot see the forest for the trees. For the first time since the fire, I truly feel and understand my wife's inconsolable pain. Because I'm struggling to find a path to recovery and at least some form of normalcy. My community is crumbling right in front of my face. Lack of funding to rebuild is slowly destroying us. Many of us can no longer hold out, and developers are gobbling up our property. When I hear voices like Tavis Smiley and James Farr speak truth to power on KBLA Talk 1580, it reminds me that we're not crazy, just unheard. Make no mistake here, KBLA delegation, this is war, and we the people of Black Altadena are losing. It's like waiting for reparation. Not gonna happen, brother. In this new orange man world, no one, no entity is persuaded by right or wrong. There is no consequence for doing the wrong thing, and no accolades or support for doing the right thing. Will war-torn Black Altadena survive? Your guess is as good as mine. But what have I got to lose? I'm in my 70s and don't have time to wait. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once suggested that riots break out when people have no hope. But there's nothing left to burn down in Altadena. I wish I could say I remain hopeful that my beloved community will rise again like a phoenix from the ashes. I wish I could. With a KBLA Talk 1580 guest editorial, I'm Martin Gordon, chair of the Pasadena Community Coalition. Pasadena Community Coalition at gmail.com. Reach out to me. As always, we welcome your feedback.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavismiley.com. That's thetavismiley.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, a conversation with best-selling author Michael Denzel Smith about his new piece for The Intercept about the black vote in the hotly contested New York City mayoral race, the takeaways about these black voters in Manhattan, and the Bronx and Brooklyn and all over New York City. The takeaways about the black vote in this hotly contested race may surprise you. We'll do that in our second hour. In our third hour, comedy queen Lunel comes live in studio to talk about her new residency here in Southern California. It's a limited engagement, so you know it'll be sold out. It has been a tough week already for us, has it not? Today's Wednesday, so we're halfway there, I guess. We'll get our laugh on, and we couldn't need it any more than we need it right about now. We'll get our laugh on today with Lunel in hour 3. But in this first hour, let's talk politics with noted pollster Kristen Soltis Anderson, author of the newsletter Codebook. We turn to Kristen to give us a big picture look at the numbers and the trends, etc., for the Trump presidency now that we've hit the 6-month mark of his return to the White House. Before I bring her online, though, you've all seen this news that Speaker Mike Johnson, to avoid a vote on these Epstein files in the House, just sent Congress home early. I mean, that's I have never in my life seen anything like this. You want to avoid a vote so badly that you just adjourn Congress. Y'all didn't get much work done anyway, but you, at least not for those of us who really need help in America right about now. You're abandoning the poor, you're abandoning women, you're abandoning children, you're pushing an agenda that is antithetical to the best interest of people of color. I digress on all that for now. But to get out of Washington as quickly as you can to avoid this vote, you just adjourn and you go home early for your summer recess. Here is the speaker being questioned in the hallway inside the Capitol.
This resolution that the House Rules Committee approved last week calling for the release of the Epstein files, this resolution, will you commit to giving it a vote before the August recess?
So here's what I would say about the Epstein files. There is no daylight between the House Republicans, the House, and the President on maximum transparency. He has said that he wants all the credible files related to Epstein to be released. He's asked the Attorney General to request the grand jury files of the court. All of that is in process right now. My belief is we need the administration to have the space to do what it is doing, and if further congressional action is necessary or appropriate, then we'll look at that. But I don't think we're at that point right now because we agree with the president.
So no vote on this resolution before August recess.
Talk about avoiding the issue and trying to flip the script. And Donald Trump's got the Speaker of the House right alongside with him, trying to avoid this issue. And the fascinating thing about this, as you all know, is that this was their creation. And now all of a sudden it's a Democratic hoax. They don't want to vote on it. The Attorney General, the President, the Speaker doing everything they can to avoid this issue. This was their issue. This was their issue. They thought this client list would reveal a long list of Democrats. And it is amazing to watch Donald Trump and the ends to which he's going right now to avoid this issue, to change the subject, to switch the narrative. If I had the time, I'd run through all the things just in the last 3 or 4 days he's done, trying to change the subject from this particular issue that they ran on, that they put at the top of their agenda. Now they're trying to avoid it like a plague. I digress on that for now. We'll talk about this and a number of other things, and more importantly, what we look like 6 months into Trump 2.0 with Kristen Soltis Anderson when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
All I need is one mic.
With the KBLA Talk 1580 guest editorial, I'm Martin Gordon, chair of the Pasadena Community Coalition. Recently, I listened to a Tavis Smiley show conversation with James Farr. At one point, James said something that caught me off guard. Not because it wasn't true, but because it is. Black Altadena is gone. I know it may
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
Hello, family. This is Dr. Rosa Milligan, self-appointed mayor of South Central LA. I'm sounding the alarm. AI, artificial intelligence, is not coming. It's already here. Join me with a powerful Zoom seminar that will teach you how to use AI for your personal and business use. Go to mytechacademy.net or call 213-878-4742.
Let's be real. Too many black businesses missed out on COVID PPP loans because they weren't tech ready. We can't afford to be left behind again. This time, we must lead. Register today at mytechacademy.net or call 213-878-4742.
You know me, Dr. Rosa, trusted voice of the people, 50 years fighting for literacy, technology, and living trust education. And now, I got your back on AI. Go to mytechacademy.net or call 213-878-4742. Your future is calling. Answer it.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and noted pollster Kristen Soltis Anderson, who I'm delighted to have on this program. Kristen, how are you today?
I'm doing well. So honored to be here.
So honored to have you on here. Thank you for the time. Is there any other way to read, or you tell me how we should read the fact that that Donald Trump and Republicans are doing everything they can to run away from this Epstein issue that they essentially created? The House, as I mentioned earlier, canceled the last day of votes before summer break as this Epstein drama consumes all of Capitol Hill. And for his part, Donald Trump, has done everything he could to change the subject, suing the Wall Street Journal for the piece they wrote about him and Jeffrey Epstein. So he's suing the Wall Street Journal. He released the King files, the MLK files, against the wishes of the family. I told this audience a week or two ago, I said, watch how this happens. Y'all remember that conversation? I told you to watch this. That the ways in which they treated these Epstein files was going to be dramatically different from the way they treated the MLK files. 240,000 pages, and they're starting to roll them out. So they released the King files, but not the Epstein files against, I repeat, the wishes of the King family. Then he went after these NFL teams, suggesting they return their names. The Commanders should once again be the Redskins. The owner said that's not going to happen. But anything and everything to change the subject from Epstein. Kristen, how do I read that?
Donald Trump has really gotten himself into a political bind here because originally this was an issue that was mostly of potent interest to, I don't even want to say his base, because it's really even just a very slice of his base. Mm-hmm. It's very online and very focused on this. And by overpromising, as some in his administration have done, by saying, we've got all this stuff and once we're in office, we're going to reveal it to you, they set the bar very high that meant they were going to disappoint some of their most most ardent supporters if they didn't follow through. The follow-up actions of going on TV and saying, I've got a list on my desk here, I'm going to give folks these binders, really then just set the stage for that disappointment to be even more acute. But I think that alone would not necessarily have turned this into the political firestorm it's become, because that would have kept it still contained within the president's base, who, in every data point I see, is still very, very loyal to him for a number of other reasons. What made this sort of break containment was when he very aggressively said, there's nothing to see here, look away. That's the number one way to get more people to look into it. And so all of a sudden, this went from something that was really a hot topic in MAGA internet circles to being something that's getting mentioned by mainstream comedians, by that it's really becoming more part of the pop cultural conversation. And that means that it is much harder to put that toothpaste back in the tube, and it is something that's going to distract from all the other things that Donald Trump might be much more interested in talking about. And now it is really not just going to go away.
Yep. Tell me more about what you know about this slice, as you put it, this slice of his base that is so animated and so anxious about this. And I asked that in part because what I'm really pressing toward is how powerful is that particular slice. It seems to me if it's just a slice of the base, to your point, this has become an outsized issue, so much so that they're adjourning Congress a day early to avoid talking about it. That slice must have some juice.
Yeah, so there is a pretty big portion of the Republican Party that thinks of itself more as a Donald Trump supporter, first and foremost, than thinks of itself as a Republican, first and foremost, which is a pretty astonishing finding these days. But, Donald Trump really has secured the support of his party. 49% of Republicans in my poll say that they think of themselves more as a Trump supporter, 44% more a supporter of the GOP. Now, for those who think of themselves more as a Trump supporter, that's something that's allowed the party to go places ideologically it might not go. So things in that one big beautiful bill that Republicans in a past era might have opposed, they say they're okay with because Donald Trump holds this powerful force. He's a very powerful personality. He's someone that a lot of Republicans like, and they're willing to go there ideologically, places they wouldn't have gone otherwise because Donald Trump says do so. But the core thing that lets Donald Trump do this is he says, I'm an outsider. I'm an outsider and I'm fighting for you. I'm fighting the system. I'm fighting for transparency. And the problem he's facing on this issue is that it doesn't seem like he's fighting for transparency. It seems like he's fighting for himself or protecting elites. And at this point, whether they ultimately release something or not, it has fractured this notion with his base that he's the one that's going to go in there and fight for us, fight for the little guy against the elites. It's putting Donald Trump on the side of the elites who's trying to use the system to his benefit. And that's what's creating the much bigger risk to Donald Trump's support amongst his base than any of the other things he's done that may ideologically, policy-wise, not be what they want.
Let me go to that part that you referenced a moment ago, Kristen, about these MAGA supporters who see themselves, many of them first and foremost, as supporters of Donald Trump, even more so than they see themselves as Republicans. I was just literally reading this morning before I came on the show today an article about the ways in which these particular persons are trying to suck up to Donald Trump. Here's some examples of the things that they are doing in Congress specifically. Now, again, let's be clear that all these persons that Kristen is referencing, these are not members of Congress. We're just talking about MAGA supporters across the board. But when it comes to inside the Beltway, inside the House and the Senate, these are some of the things that are being introduced now to just, as I said, suck up to Donald Trump, putting him above even the party, if you will. In no particular order, number one, there's a measure that's been introduced to change the name of Dulles Airport to Donald Trump International Airport. You recall some years ago they put Ronald Reagan's name on national. I'm sorry, y'all. I still call it national. I will never call it Reagan National. It was national, always will be for me. That's just Tavis talking for all my friends in D.C. listening on WOL right now. But they want to change Dulles to Donald Trump International Airport. Number one, this stuff isn't funny. This is real. Secondly, you saw the story yesterday, 2 days ago. It's everywhere now. They want to put Melania's name on the wall at the Kennedy Center. They want to switch out and put Melania's name, his wife, on the wall at the Kennedy Center. There are measures introduced to add Donald Trump's image to Mount Rushmore. They want to put him on Mount Rushmore. Number four, Darrell Issa of California, no less, Republican, introduced legislation and suggested he wants to nominate Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. Of course, Bibi Netanyahu beat him to that. But there's another issue. Finally, they want to turn Donald Trump's birthday. You saw the military parade he did on his birthday. There's legislation already introduced in the House to turn his birthday into a national holiday. Those are just some of the examples, Kristen, that I was reading this morning about the ways in which your point resonates, that there are people inside the Republican Party, the Republican base, who have made him a sort of demigod, if you will. Talk to me, Kristen.
Yeah, there are a lot of folks within the party that they see Donald Trump as someone who figured out how to win when Republicans were unable to. Remember, coming out of the election in 2008, when Barack Obama wins significantly over John McCain, Republicans kind of try to figure out, how can we ever win again? They put up Mitt Romney in 2012, and that doesn't succeed. And so then Donald Trump comes along in 2016, and against all odds, doing everything wrong, doing exactly the opposite of what any normal political playbook would tell you, pulls off a victory. And that made a lot of Republican base voters go, finally, somebody pulled this off. And that gave him a lot of credibility with the base to do things that would have been unacceptable or rejected out of hand from really any other Republican. And then the fact that, in 2016, it was pretty narrow, it was seen as maybe a fluke kind of event. When he lost in 2020, then folks said, well, maybe the GOP will turn the page. But folks like Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley in that primary, they tried to run against him. They tried to say, hey, Republicans, do you want to turn the page? And Republicans really emphatically said, no, we do not want to turn the page. Donald Trump is who we like. He's the one who's figured out how to win before, and we think he's the one who's going to be able to win in the future. And the fact that he then won in the 2024 election meant he has this incredible amount of credibility and favorability with his own party. I mean, today, when I ask Republicans, do you have a favorable or unfavorable view of Donald Trump? Not only do 82% have a favorable view of him, it's intense. 61% say they view him very favorably. And that's the number I'm going to be watching closely as this Epstein story unfolds. For things like tariffs, which Republicans are not unified in support around, that nevertheless didn't hurt Trump's support with his own party. For things like One Big Beautiful Bill, there may be provisions in it like cuts to Medicaid that wind up hurting Trump with some of his voters, but I'm not seeing that show up in the data quite yet. But I'll be fascinated to see, does this Epstein story take those folks that have a favorable view of Trump personally and say, wait a minute, I thought you were someone who always knew how to win and how to fight for the little guy like me. Now it seems like you've just become part of the system. I don't know if I trust you anymore. That's what I'm watching to see if that unfolds.
What's your data tell you, or what does your instinct tell you about the way in which Donald Trump turning on his base over this Epstein thing is playing out?
Well, right now, it's so fast moving. And I think the fact that you've seen many prominent MAGA influencers back off a little bit and say things like, I want to give this administration, my friends in the White House, the time to work this through. They don't really want to be caught between this rock and the hard place, because any other time that someone has claimed they're the one who speaks for the MAGA movement and they try to get crosswise with Trump, it never works out for them. So there's a lot of them that are thinking, I don't know that I really want to take this gamble and get crosswise with Trump, because the MAGA base is Trump's base, and what Trump says goes. And this is going to be a real test of the extent to which that is a firm truth.
Yeah. What's been fascinating for me, Kristen, over the last few days to watch and to make note of is that Donald Trump has finally gotten himself up against the wall. But the fascinating part for me is that it had nothing to do with Democrats. For all of our talk about Democrats as the opposition party, Donald Trump is finally in some hot water here. But it had nothing to do with Democrats. Nothing that they did, nothing that they created, no agenda that they ran, none of their speeches, none of their rallies, none of the protests, none of this has gotten Donald Trump in hot water. It's been Jeffrey Epstein. It's been the Republicans trying to run an agenda. I mean, I'm laughing because it really is sort of funny to me that he's in hot water, but Democrats had nothing to do with it.
And this is why Republicans, despite all of this, are still feeling I don't want to say confident, but they're not feeling like they're on the back foot yet when you're looking way ahead to those midterm elections coming up next November.
Right.
Normally, if you're the party that's in power, if you control both houses of Congress, you control the White House, you are set up to lose, usually pretty badly. We've got plenty of examples of presidents where they get elected and then 2 years later, everything gets turned on its head. But right now, Republicans benefit from the fact that voters have not really warmed up to the Democratic Party or decided that they think Democrats are great. Even in my latest polling, where we see Donald Trump's job approval has gone down on the economy. It's gone down on things like immigration. It's gone down on issues that used to be his strong suit. Republicans, the one big beautiful bill does not test extremely well in my polling. And yet, when I ask people, who would you vote for if the election were being held today, Republicans still have an advantage very slightly on that question. Now, when you introduce weird things like what if Elon Musk launches a third party, then that starts to get a little shakier as well. And that's the point of even a little bit of erosion among Republicans' base can be a real problem when the margins are so close. But right now, it's not as though my data is showing voters love Democrats. There's just a real question of, can Republicans turn out their own people, knowing that there may not be enthusiastic about everything that's going on with Epstein, that a very small number could be peeled off by an Elon Musk America party. And you also just have Trump's base made up of folks that are not as likely to turn out in off-year elections, that all make the Republican potential for doing okay in the November 2026 midterms sort of on the edge.
You said a few things I want to probe, but let me start with this. We've all watched the Elon Musk, Donald Trump squabble up. Everybody predicted it was going to happen when they first got together and became best buddies. But we knew this squabble up was going to happen at some point. We've been watching that. But Musk, of course, has been popping off a lot, as you mentioned earlier, about this third party. I'm not so sure he can get a third party off the ground. What I think is more likely, if he meant what he said, is he does, in fact, we all know, have the resources to primary many Republicans who voted for that so-called big, beautiful bill. But do you see anything actually happening there? Do you think that story really has legs, or is it just Musk popping off?
So I think that it doesn't necessarily have the likelihood to affect a lot of Republican primaries. If you are in a Republican primary and Donald Trump comes in and says, I support this person, they voted for my agenda, that's pretty much the end of the story. Where this could have an effect is if Elon Musk decides to instead try to set up a third party. And I'm skeptical that they would win a single seat in Congress. Make no mistake, I don't think that Elon Musk is going to set up a party and they're going to win elections. But they could be an interesting spoiler. In that poll that I just mentioned, when we asked people which candidate would you vote for, Republicans lead Democrats by a single point. But when we add the America Party as an option, and we explain that the America Party is Elon Musk's creation, only 5% of people choose it, but overwhelmingly it hurts the Republican candidate. Republicans go from being ahead by 1 to being down by 4. So the America Party is not going to win a seat in Congress, and I think it's unlikely that they're going to unseat any incumbent Republicans in a primary if they ran that direction. But could they potentially draw a handful of voters away here and there with these razor-thin margins in Congress and really upset some things? That's possible.
There are many more questions I have for Kristen Soltis Anderson, including back to the Jeffrey Epstein issue, how Donald Trump and Republicans make this go away. They've gone on recess, but they can't make the issue go away. And at some point, they do have to come back to work. So is there a way to rid themselves of this Jeffrey Epstein albatross, as it were? And I want to ask her also, where does her research show these truth-seeking Trump supporters going if they're done with him over these Epstein files? They go farther right, or do they go to Bernie, Zoran, Mondami, AOC on the left, or to the center, the James Carville version of the Democratic Party? Where do these disaffected Republicans go that may be done with him over this Epstein issue? And I want to have a broader philosophical conversation about how Republicans decide into the future whether or not all of this was worth it. They've imploded their party for Donald Trump. We talked about all the sycophant moves that we see being made to just bow down to Donald Trump. But at some point, they got to wrestle with whether or not all of this was, in fact, worth it. It's a bit philosophical, but I want to go there anyway with Kristen Soltis Anderson when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Black D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser is brushing off President Trump's threat to block a stadium deal unless the Commanders revert to the Redskins name.
We need to complete our part so that we can start earning the tax revenue that will come when we deliver the Commanders Stadium.
Team owner Josh Harris says the name's not changing. President Trump vows to immediately appeal and win if a judge rules against his freeze on over $2.5 billion in Harvard research funding. The Justice Department says the school must align with federal priorities. Harvard calls it retaliation. And a top Louisiana health advocate says rural hospitals aren't in danger from Medicaid cuts. Jeff Reynolds of the Rural Hospital Coalition says the Big Beautiful Bill includes a $50 billion fund, with Louisiana set to receive up to $150 million a year for rural care. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Compassion sponsorship means food, healthcare, education, and more for a child in poverty. And there are thousands of kids who've been waiting over a year and their wait. Sponsor a child with compassion today. Text the word radio to 83393.
Is this the takeover? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Venus Williams, at age 45, became the second oldest woman to win a tour-level singles match. The Compton native defeated Peyton Stearns in straight sets Tuesday, 6-3 and 6-4 in the first round of the D.C. Open in Washington, D.C. It was the first singles win for Venus since the Cincinnati Open in August of 2023. Tuesday's match was also the first time Venus had been on the court since the Miami Open on March 19, 2024. Martina Navratilova holds the record as the oldest woman to win a tour-level singles match. Navratilova was 47 when she won a match at Wimbledon in 2004. Venus showed she still has some game. One of her serves was clocked at 112 miles per hour. Venus, a 7-time Grand Slam champion, was given a wildcard exemption to play in the D.C. Open. She advances to the second round on Thursday against the number 5 seed in the tournament, Magdalena Frech of Poland. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, man. Hey, what's up, bro? What's that station you listening to? Oh, man, you don't know? That's Talk Radio. KBLA 1580 AM. Check it out. 1580 KBLA. KBLA AM. 1580 Talk Radio. Progressive.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we're celebrating our 4th anniversary, and this track right here is the gift one of our devoted listeners presented to us.
Where you get some information, get a true education, just to know. Ooh, yeah. 1580.
How cool is that? Having a member of our KBLA delegation write us a song. Stop it! Our listeners love us, and there ain't nothing we can do about it. Wouldn't want to. Thanks to Cardell and everybody else for turning on KBLA Talk 1580. We love you right black.
KBLA 1580 Talk Radio. Get it like me. Ooh, KBLA 1580 Talk Radio. Progressive. KBLA.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified professionals pathologist on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on autopsy, then click on request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Kristen Soltis Anderson, pollster with Echelon Insights, author of the newsletter Codebook. Honored to have her on this program to give us a sense of where we are sort of 6 months into this presidency, and she's sharing some data that I find rather interesting. A few things I said a moment ago I want to get to. Let me start with this. Your numbers are showing, and again, Kristen is doing a polling of Republicans more than anything else, and that's why I wanted to have her on to see what they're seeing, what she's seeing, I should say. On the economy, though, these numbers you said your polling suggests are going down. Donald Trump's numbers on the economy are going down, which I find fascinating in part because the data told us months ago that one of the reasons why he won is that folks thought he'd be better on the economy. And to my mind, he's been, as I said before, schizophrenic. The markets are scared because one day he says one thing and the markets react. The next day he says something totally different and the markets react. So to my mind, Donald Trump isn't the best president for the markets because, again, they ebb and flow based on what he has to say, what comes out of his mouth. But if your numbers are suggesting that he's losing ground on the economy, that means what?
It means that his former biggest strength with voters is no longer his biggest strength. When he first came into office back in January, we asked voters if they approved of how he was doing overall, and then on a bunch of different issues, the economy, immigration, foreign policy, and all of those numbers were in pretty good shape for him. He had 50+% saying they approved of him on things like foreign policy, immigration, and so forth, but those numbers have all fallen. And now, not just a majority, but a significant majority say they disapprove of how he's doing on the economy. A significant majority disapprove of how he's doing overall. And during his first term, he used to have this weird dynamic where there were some people that said, I don't like Trump overall, but at least he's good for the economy. His economic job approval always tended to be a few points higher. Some folks didn't love the tweets. They didn't love how he was handling a bunch of other things, but they thought at least this guy's putting more money in my pocket. And that's no longer really the case. What I hear in focus groups with voters who like Donald Trump, but are a little bit uneasy, is that they're giving him the benefit of the doubt for now, but they're a little worried. Why haven't things gotten less expensive? Why haven't things gotten cheaper? I was waiting for him to do that, and hopefully it'll happen soon. They're still holding out hope that there's a strategy here, that things like these tariffs will ultimately come into effect and accrue to our benefit. But it is, I think one big concern that Trump should be focused on is that voters are not someone that is that voters are just not necessarily 100% in that, oh, yes, he's going to be a great steward of the economy this time.
Mm-hmm. Does your polling data say anything to you about the way in which the Latino community is starting to abandon him? I've been reading a number of pieces of late, Kristen, about the way that his immigration efforts are really starting to turn the numbers, if ever so slowly, amongst his Latino base. And I raise that in large part because we all know that every time he has run, he's picked up more Latino voters. Every time he's run, he's picked up more black voters, for that matter. Any data on that?
Yeah, so with Latino voters, he is losing a little bit of support across the board. An issue that I think is going to be the most interesting to watch with Latino voters is immigration, because it's one where I think the politics were misunderstood for a while. And Donald Trump, even as his economic job approval started to fall early in this term, his immigration job approval stayed pretty high until very recently, because voters said, look, we feel like the border is in crisis. We think that it needs to be made more secure, and we think that Donald Trump is going to do that. And they liked initially what they were seeing, even if there were stories of people being sent to prisons in El Salvador, and they thought, well, I don't really love that. That's not exactly what I was hoping for. But overall, I'm glad he's dealing with the border crisis. It's now gotten to a point where, if you talk to Latino Trump voters, they'll say, I like what he's doing at the border. I think people need to come here legally. But I was told we were going to get rid of the bad guys first. And it sure doesn't feel like you're going after the bad guys with some of these stories I'm hearing. Or my friend's uncle, so-and-so, is worried to leave his house because he's worried that his paperwork's not in order. That those are the sorts of stories that are starting to make the pendulum shift. We've been asking voters over the last many years how they feel about a bunch of different issues, and immigration is one where people had moved to the right pretty significantly over the last 2 years, saying that they prioritize deportation and border security and law enforcement, or enforcing these laws, over let's find a compassionate pathway to citizenship. But the pendulum's starting to swing. Now that folks perceive that Trump has cracked down on the border, they're going, okay, well, what's next? I actually don't think that it's reasonable to think we're going to deport 12, 13, 14 million people. And now they're asking for what the next chapter is. And I'm not sure yet that the White House has communicated beyond deportations what the plan is.
So I posed earlier this question that I want to get to now, which is if the number of disaffected MAGA supporters of Donald Trump continues to grow, where do they go?
So right now, I think the question for the midterms is less, do they vote for Democrats? Because the Democratic brand is still in tough shape. I think there's a chance that folks just stay home. Donald Trump's coalition is made up of a lot of voters that really like him, but if he's not thrilling them, and especially if he's not on the ballot at that moment, they may just not bother. They're not necessarily dyed-in-the-wool Republican voters forever and ever and ever. That doesn't mean they'll vote for Democrats, but if they just stay home or sit things out, that could be a real problem, because Democrats, even though their brand isn't great, the folks who are Democratic voters are pretty reliable, pretty interested in turning out, and tend to be the types of folks who want to send a message to Donald Trump. So by just losing even small amounts of this new coalition that Trump had put together, he does put his own party at risk in that 2026 midterm.
I want to circle back one final time to this Jeffrey Epstein matter. As we mentioned earlier, Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, sent Congress home early, a day early. There are things that they were supposed to vote on that just didn't get voted on because they did not want to deal anymore with this Jeffrey Epstein matter and perhaps being forced into a vote by Democrats. So he recessed Congress, and they're home now on their summer break. But that doesn't make this issue go away. It makes it go away for now, but it's not going to go away if Democrats have anything to say about it. So when they come back into session, Democrats, I can assure you, are going to raise this issue all over again. They are not going to let this go because for the first time they've got Donald Trump, it seems, in some hot water. And I shouldn't say they, as I said earlier, it has nothing to do with Democrats. Donald Trump is in some hot water, not of their doing, but of Republicans' own doing. But the issue has not gone away, even as they have gone home for the summer. So is there any way to make this thing just poof disappear, Kristen, this issue?
I don't know that there's a way to make this poof disappear, but I do think that by the initial handling of it has made it tough to ever fully wind this back down. That I think if initially this had been something that's just kind of stayed confined to MAGA internet, it might have gone away as other issues popped up. But now, because it's broken containment, it's hard to make it fully go away. I think the way you're going to make this stop is for the Justice Department and FBI to put out something that folks in Congress can go, see, look, they put something out. They were transparent. They did as much as they legally could do. Now let's move on. There are plenty of legal constraints around what can and can't be released from any sort of records or files they have. So they may be able to try to make an argument, look, we've put something out. This is the best we can do. And even if it's unsatisfactory to folks in the most ardent MAGA circles, they can at least say, hey, we did something, let's move on. But I think in the absence of we did something, there's going to remain a really unsatisfied piece of the base that says this feels like it's being swept under the rug. It feels like my concerns aren't being taken seriously. And so I don't know if you can just wait this one out. What'll be really interesting is August is a time when all these members of Congress go back to their districts, and they typically hold town hall meetings. It's where they really have to face their base face to face. And so whether these folks go back and they're getting yelled at in town hall meetings by folks saying, why aren't you focused on this? Or it could be the opposite. They could be getting yelled at by people saying, I'm sorry, why are you distracted by this when I've got bills to pay, I've got groceries to afford, I've got housing that's too expensive. So whichever of those messages sort of shows up the loudest at these town halls in August, I think will affect a lot of what you see Congress do or not do on Epstein come September.
Of course, all that assumes that they actually hold these town hall meetings, as we all know.
Well, that's true too.
Yeah, as we all know, Republicans have been scared of holding town hall meetings because they've been taking on the chin, and so some of them are afraid to even have a town hall for fear that the media will catch them getting some pretty severe pushback, and so we'll see if they even hold these town hall meetings. More for Kristen Soltis Anderson when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From the Mert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we're proud to be celebrating 4 years on the air, but we know we could not have made it this far without you. We work hard every single day to curate conversations that will enlighten, encourage, and empower you. So, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, a big thank you for your love and support.
You don't know how much you mean to me.
And by the way, if your smartphone did not update automatically, be sure to download our brand new KBLA 1580 app. We think you'll love all the new features, including new ways to send us photos and video in real time, whenever news breaks, while we're on the air. It's a new dawn, a new day for KBLA Talk 1580, and we're glad you're on this journey with us.
You never turned away, you were right there. Thank you, thank you.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone, and should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
The following is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways with the purpose of soliciting sales of vacation ownership. For complete details, please visit fvgradio.com. If you want a 100% complimentary stay at a luxury resort in Cancun, airfare not included, then Family Vacation Getaways is your ticket to paradise. See website for complete details. We're giving away 5 days and 4 nights to the first 50 callers who can name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. An animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. Do you know it? Call now, 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431. You're also eligible for an exciting bonus vacation to Orlando, Florida for just $498. And don't worry about anything ruining your plans. We can extend your travel up to 18 months. Name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird, and get a complimentary Cancun resort stay and an optional bonus vacation to Orlando for just $498. What are you waiting for? Call 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431, and give us your answer. The proceeding is not a contest and is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways and not sponsored by this program or its affiliates.
Made fresh daily in the Mert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Kristen Soltis Anderson. Kristen, I saw the piece you wrote about Gen Z in today's politics. Fascinating for me. I wonder if you might top line that for our audience.
Yeah, so I've been very focused on younger voters for a long time. I'm part of the millennial generation, which we used to be young voters, but we are not young voters anymore. We are thoroughly middle-aged. And so now the focus has shifted to Gen Z, who is emerging as a really potent political force. I know up later on the show, you're going to be talking about the New York City primary, and that was an election where Gen Z really, really, really made its voice heard. And I think Republicans right now, after having done pretty poorly with millennials over the last decade or so, have looked to Gen Z and thought, well, this might be a generation where we can get a do-over. We can try to be a little bit better about reaching them. Donald Trump, of course, made real efforts to show up on podcasts, be places online, try to use platforms where young people are getting their news to get information into the bloodstream in a different way. But what I've written about Gen Z is that the core problem that Gen Z is facing is not one that I think a traditional political agenda sounds like it's relevant to, right? You can come in and say, I want to make sure that our economy is working so that you can have a better paying job, you can have healthcare that's portable and moves with you and doesn't go away if you lose your job. Those things are all absolutely important. But Gen Z is also, in a lot of the data I look at, expressing a real sense of just discontentment with the way society works, with a lot of big institutions, with the sense that there are things in their life that they want that they might not be able to achieve. And some of that is because of economics, but others are because they're struggling to find a partner. They're struggling to feel like they can start a family. They don't feel like connected to their community. They don't have dinner with friends as often as maybe an older generation used to. And so what I've written about Gen Z is that for politicians who want to connect with them, you've got to show up where they are, but you've got to understand what their aspirations are and what the obstacles are to achieving those aspirations. And it's not necessarily just something that Congress can fix by passing a bill.
Yeah. Democrats at this moment, to be sure, are having a reckoning. And when we come forward in our remaining moments with Kristen, I want to ask her how Republicans in the months and years ahead will determine whether or not all of this was worth it, imploding the party for Donald Trump. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. Every girl deserves a chance to shine. That's the belief behind Forgiving for Living, Inc. Since 1999, this organization has been empowering at-risk girls ages 13 to 18, helping them overcome behavioral and mental health challenges. Founder Wendy Gladney's personal journey inspired the mission to give girls hope and purpose through the power of forgiveness. Through their ambassador program, workshops, and annual conference, Forgiving for Living has touched over 3,000 young lives, providing mentoring, life skills, training, and tools for building self-esteem and confidence. You can make a difference. Visit forgivingforliving.org to donate, volunteer, become a mentor, or find help for a young girl in need. Forgiving for Living, Inc., building brighter futures for young girls. Visit forgivingforliving.org today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
Break out the champagne. Everybody get a glass.
Tavis Smiley is now ranked number 16 nationally and the highest rated talk show hosted by an African American on the 2025 Talkers Heavy 100 list of the most important talk radio hosts in the nation. Last year, Tavis ranked number 33, and the year before, number 45. The Tavis Smiley Show has rapidly expanded its national syndication to now include nearly 50 radio stations across the country and counting. Congratulations, Tavis.
Yay!
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black.
Follow the leader.
Following the leader.
Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Kristen Soltis Anderson. Kristen, I don't know if you've done any polling about this. I'm just fascinated to get your take if you have. I assume that Republicans who believe that there's a liberal media bias to begin with have not been as offended as many of us on the left have been about the way that the mainstream media is bending the knee, the Colbert firing at CBS, on and on and on. I could go if I had the time. But I assume they're not as bothered by that as we are on the left.
So I haven't done any polling specifically on the Colbert question, but I will tell you there is not a lot of love for anything that seems like traditional media among Republicans, but it's not just Republicans. Interestingly, if you look at polling around whether people trust the media, that has been in decline for decades.
Sure.
And it was started by declines in trust in the media from Republicans. It used to be that there was a pretty big partisan gap on that question. To the extent that number has kept getting worse in recent years, it's because now Democrats are going, you know what? I don't know if these institutions have my best interest at heart. I don't know if they're covering things the way I would want them to be covered. And so this is one of those things where for many of these media outlets, it's like one step forward, two steps back. Every time they try to do something to maybe improve trust with one group of voters, they maybe don't make as much progress as they were hoping, but then they lose a bunch of trust from the folks on the other side that think, see, look, I told you that they're not looking out for my interest. And it's led to this really big trust, doom spiral. And you see this for the media, you see this for a bunch of other types of institutions as well, but the media is probably the most prominent.
I've got 2 minutes left. I'll yield it to you, Kristen. In the months and years to come, how will Republicans assess whether or not all of this was worth it?
I think they're going to look at a few things. One, I think if the economy is doing well at the end of Trump's presidency, I think Republicans will say, look, see, we told you. I think the other thing is we've got really big changes coming to our society through things like AI. The White House just today putting out a bunch of information about what their policy on AI is going to be. I think whether or not this administration shepherds us successfully through what is going to be a massively disruptive era will be something that they use to judge it. But then finally, whether Donald Trump's successor gets elected, I think will be a big deal. I think if at the end of Trump's presidency, the Republican brand is not good, his successor loses badly to a Democrat in 2028, I do think that has the potential to leave a sour taste in people's mouth. If the idea is that he did not hand off his movement or his success to someone else, and instead just sort of created something that meant people backlashed big the other way and sort of got rid of everything Trump did, that to me is how this will wind up being judged.
Yeah, I got 60 seconds here right quick. Interested to know whether or not you have any polling data on J.D. Vance. I asked that because for so long he was completely overshadowed by Elon Musk, who's now left the White House, left government, as it were. What's your polling say? Speaking of successors, that's why I asked that question about Vance.
Yeah, he is right now very much in pole position. When we ask Republican voters who they would vote for president in a primary in 2028, J.D. Vance wins by a landslide. 42% pick him. Second place is Ron DeSantis with 9. Marco Rubio with 7. That's not to say you couldn't have some kind of a J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio death match as we approach 2028. But right now, he very much so is in the driver's seat as the likely nominee of the party in 4 years.
Kristen Soltis Anderson with Echelon Insights. Kristen, thanks for your insights on this hour. 6 months in, I appreciate you. We'll do it again somewhere down the road.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Black D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser is brushing off President Trump's threat to block a stadium deal unless the Commanders revert to the Redskins name.
We need to complete our part so that